people
All
around.
right, here's your answers from yesterday. Hopefully you had a chance to look those over. Okay.
There's just no way.
We got a couple things today we're gonna move on to. That is solving some inequalities. But before we get to the inequalities, we're going to knock out a couple more from yesterday. I'm not writing it in radical form. I'm writing it as a rational or a fractional exponent. We're gonna follow the same steps we did yesterday, so you can follow along. At this time, please, if you have your cell phones out, put them out of sight. We're gonna change the rules now, out of sight, like in your pocket, in your book bag. I don't wanna see them anywhere on the desk at all. Gandhi. I've lost my patience and I'm about ready to throw mine and someone else's out the window. Go ahead.
Myself, I feel oppressed.
We're lucky to divide by negative.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so step one, write it as a radical. In this case, it would be the cube of 5x plus 7 equals 3. Now what? We're gonna cube both sides, not square root it, because it is a cube there, okay? So we're gonna end up with 5x plus 7 equals 3 times 3 times 3, which would be 27. Nothing new here, same stuff you did yesterday, isn't it?
Yesterday, didn't we take the 2 on the outside and then we multiplied 2 by 3 and then it got 6 and you put 6 parentheses 5x plus 7?
No.
You didn't do that yesterday? I must have been somewhere else.
And you are most of the time.
I just remembered it for some reason.
If it was a square root, we'd take a square root, but this is a cube. Everybody can solve from there. Minus 7, divide by 5. Okay, you're gonna have 5x equals 20, so your x equals 4. Is everybody okay there? Questions at all? One more of those, please. Take a shot at this one right here. Just a little different. It's not a square root. So see what you can do there.
Gotta be that solution.
Okay, what do we gotta do to both sides? Yeah, half, that's like squaring, right? We're gonna square both sides. So you gotta be careful on some of these. You gotta be actively thinking about squaring both sides, okay? So 2x times 2x is gonna be 4x squared equals 4x plus 8.
You pause yours.
Yes, sorry. I was trying to get this screen moving around way too much, and it's not gonna quite right today. All right, bring everything over. 4x squared minus 4x minus 8 equals 0, right? We gotta bring it over. Now, what's the difference between this one and other solving? It's a quadratic, isn't it? So we gotta do factoring, but before I factor here, I'm gonna take a 4 out of all those. That's a GCF, gonna make things a lot easier for me. So if I take a 4 out, I'm left with x squared minus x minus 2. Still equal to 0. Don't want to lose sight of my original problem up there. All right, now we're ready to factor this guy if we can. It does. That 4 is still going to stay out front, although it does not really do much at this point. We're still equal to 0. Factors of 2 is the difference of 1 would be, of course, 2 and 1, so this is going to be x minus 2, and x plus 1. We still have to solve from there. So don't forget to finish this up. X is equal to a positive 2, and also negative 1. And my friends, really nothing new from yesterday at all, is there? I just wrote it as a rational exponent. Does everybody feel comfortable? Same process yesterday, get it done. Isolated, square root both sides, cube root both sides, whatever it is, solve. How can we make the solving complicated? Maybe it might be a quadratic. We'll get an x squared. Is everybody good? Fantastic. Question, Luke?
Never mind, I think I figured it out.
Attaboy. All right, don't write this one down. What would I do to both sides?
Q.
Okay, you'd end up with x plus 5 equals,
27.
and then subtract 5, we can all handle that, x is 22. That's pretty simple.
That's mental math.
Some of us are a little more mental than others in here. All right, on to today. We're gonna do some inequalities now. We've had inequalities all year. We're gonna apply that to this guy right here. Of course, inequalities, all the rules hold true. When we solve, when we divide by negative, we'll have to switch so those rules do hold true. Here's the first one. Now, with inequalities, there's going to be 2 parts, and we're going to have to understand that fact. We're going to do the first thing, which would be isolate the radicals. So what are we going to do first?
Subtract 3.
Subtract 3. So now we're going to be down, and there's 2 parts, so we'll just label this thing over here. As soon as I redo that right there, we'll label this part 1. So part 1. We're going to solve here. So I'm going to subtract 3. So I'm going to have the square root of 2x minus 6 still less than or equal to 6. There are 2 parts to this, everybody. You understand? We're doing part 1. Now what? Square both sides. Just like we have been. So now we're down to 2x minus 6 less than or equal to 36. Keep going. Plus 6. We're going to have 2x still less than or equal to what? 42. Divide by 2. And we're going to have part of the answer, x less than 21. That's part 1 of the answer. Yes?
So the first step, where did that 3 go?
We subtracted it to the other, we just
Oh,
subtracted it. Subtract 3 and we got 6 over there, okay? Is that good? Everybody good? All right. Here's part 2. Second part. Listen, if it's a square root, okay? If it's a square root, which this is, that can be a negative number. So this is an important part. So part 2 is we're going to have to take 2x minus 6, and it always has to be greater than or equal to 0. All All right, so underneath the radical, second part, always has to be bigger than 0. We can't have. Now, if it's a cube root, it's okay. It can be a negative number under a cube root. But under a square root, okay, or a fourth root, it's gonna need to be greater than 0. So now we're gonna solve for this. What are we gonna do first? Add 6. So now we're gonna have 2x greater than or equal to 6, divide by 2. And we're gonna still have x greater than or equal to 3. Now, anytime we have an inequality, there's a couple ways to write it, okay? And the first way I want you to do on the assessment, I'll probably be asking you to do it more than one, is a number line. Okay, so let's do that. We'll do a number line. What are the numbers that, the only numbers I'm interested in would be 3 and 21. We'll put 3 here, put 21 out here. I'll change the color here so we can have an idea of what's going on. Here, x has to be what? Less than or equal. Coming this way. Here, x has to be greater than or equal. Coming this way. So, on the assessment on Friday, I'm gonna ask you to do it a couple different ways. I might ask you to do number line, and there will be your number line. What's another possibility? One of the easy ones would be interval. 3, comma, 21, including, remember we did that. Still okay? Yes?
The brackets, do they change if there's not like?
Yeah, if it's not included, it's rounded.
Okay.
Our third way, okay? Our third possibility is 3x 21. X has to be greater than or equal to 3, but less than equal to 21. And let me get this out of the way because it's just a little bit in the way. X such that. And this is what? Does anybody remember? Set builder notation. Three different ways to write that solution. And I might ask you to write it in all 3 ways on Friday, okay? What do you want to start when you do that? I always start with what? Number line, because I think that's the easiest to kind of see what's going on, and you can proceed from there. You can get your number line going. All right, so let's review this guy, part 1. Part 1, we just solved for the overall thing, didn't we? Okay? So we just solved for the whole big caboodle. Part 2, all we put in was what's under the radicals. And it always has to be what? Greater than or equal to 0. How do we feel about that? Okay, let's try one more. Okay, I'm just gonna do one. I'm gonna let you get a head start on me, see how far you can get both parts. I want you to do it as a number line, interval, and set builder. There you go, I made it pretty simple. Remember those 2 parts. So if I square both sides, I'm gonna have x minus 4 less than or equal to 9, right? Not much going on with this one. I'm gonna plus 4. So I'm gonna have my part 1, x less than or equal to 13. The second part is what? X minus 4 has to be what? Always greater than or equal to 0. Okay, since it is a square root. If it was a cube root, hello, you listen? If it's a cube root, we can have a negative, so we don't need to worry about it. Solving here, what am I gonna get? I'm gonna plus 4. I'm gonna get x greater than or equal to 4. Everybody still okay? All right, let's go for our 3 different types of. So we'll do the number line. I'm interested in 4 and 13. All right, so it has to be less than 13, but of course, greater than 4, so those are included. So there's your number line. Number 1. Number 2, would be 4, comma, 13. There we go. Set builder, finally, set builder. X such that I'm gonna have 4 has to be less than or equal to 13. Greater than or equal to 4. How we doing, my friends? Everybody okay? Everybody know the 2 parts and see what you gotta do there? Is everybody good with the 3 ways to get our solution? Couple of odd problems to do tonight. Submit those as we have been all along on Canvas.